Welcome back to another episode of Two Average Husbands. I'm your host, Jake.
I'm your host, Kyle. Welcome back, everybody. Sorry for the delay. That is my fault. Actually, technically, it's my computer's fault because it has been so dang long since we've had a freaking episode that I haven't touched my desktop in weeks.
3 weeks.
I
3 weeks since we last did an episode.
Yeah, it's been too damn long. But we're here. We're happy to be here, ready to be back in action with football in the background. So don't mind either of us getting distracted briefly at moments in time when there's great plays happening, because unfortunately we have to cater to Jake's schedule and go on Thursdays for the immediate future, which means Thursday Night Football is on at the same time as the podcast. The worst.
The funniest part of the whole thing is I had to move the podcast because of softball and then pulled my hamstring. So I haven't even played for that softball team yet.
Oh, that's Bubby. Don't even worry about it. Have you got, is it a signed Justin Jefferson jersey?
That is a signed Justin Jefferson jersey.
Look at that. That's a nice little touch to the night with Minnesota playing against the Eagles.
Had to throw it up there. It was sitting. One of my buddies donated it to the dog rescue, as a future giveaway for us during a golf outing. But until then, it's mine. So might as well display it.
In that pristine plastic and have it ready to go. Okay. Do you want to go first? I don't even know. It's been forever. Where are we at? First of all, tell us what you're drinking. My bad. I'm out of the rhythm. Don't even worry about it. I'll get there.
I am drinking, it's literally just called Blackberry Cobbler by Moore Brewing, which is a local brewery here in Chicago.
So if anybody didn't know, summer's over. It might not feel like it because it's hot as shit. Especially
it's not
here.
technically
it's
over.
Very fucking hot. But summer's over.
Not technically.
Pish, posh, oshkosh, begosh. That shit's gone. So I'm moving on to fall beers. We're going to go ahead and start off with our stouts. It's stout season, baby. Really, stout's more winter. We got to do the pumpkin shit in fall. But because I have these and I'm ready for them and it's kind of fall-y-ish, we're going with stouts.
Ryan and his girlfriend came over on Sunday. And as a result,
body slammed my keyboard.
As a result of Ryan and his girlfriend coming over on Sunday, I have so many leftover pumpkin beers from him because he bought a 12-pack of pumpkin beer after we had already been drinking all day. Yeah, it's the I think the Elysium Brewing's pumpkin sampler pack.
They have like one or two that I really like, but everything else they put in those samplers I hate.
I didn't try any of them yet, but I think I have one of all of them. So
they usually have a couple of good ones.
We'll give it a shot. I almost went fall beers too, but the beer fridge is actually getting a little low. I haven't restocked in a while, so I'm just trying to clear out some of the older ones that I've had for a minute.
I am going to start with this one because I think this one will be bad if I don't drink it while it's really cold, and that is the Epidemic Ales Nutty But Nice Peanut Butter Stout.
Ooh.
And I am excited to try this one. Epidemic is so hit and miss, and I hate that about them because sometimes they have the best flavors. Sometimes they have some just really, really bland stuff, so hopefully this one's good. And then, sorry, I'm really, really trying to control my cat because I even moved my keyboard out of the way and he found a way to body slam my keyboard and move me out of the...
And he does it again.
He's literally... I should just take a video of this and like let you put it on Twitter or something because he'll prop his body up to try to like get my attention and then just go wham, and throw himself into my keyboard. And it's like the farther I move it away, the farther he freaking does these body slams.
It'd be that way sometimes. But anyways, I will go ahead and go first with our fun fact.
Yeah,
I do have a fun fact. Did you know that it actually is possible to dig a hole to China?
Go on.
The caveat is you have to start in Argentina.
Okay, go on.
That's it. That's the whole fact.
No
it's just
more information about that?
Nope.
Okay.
I haven't researched that any further. But apparently you can dig a hole to China if you start in Argentina. If you would like additional...
Would you go basically subterranean, but not like through the center? Like you just basically...
Yeah, I think that's essentially what they're going for there. If you want some other ones, I got a few other quick hitters here. Snails can sleep for up to 3 years.
Okay.
The name of the shape of a Pringle is called a hyperbolic paraboloid.
That makes sense.
And tomato ketchup was used as medicine for about 16 years.
To treat what illness?
Couldn't tell you. It's not on this graphic that I have of fun facts, but it is a fun fact according to facts.net.
This cat, man. I don't know where this
actually,
came from.
hold on. I found this one. Okay. It was before ketchup was made with tomatoes, it was made with a mix of fish and mushrooms. And then he added tomatoes to the mix, and he turned that then into pills and claimed it could treat diarrhea, indigestion, jaundice, and rheumatism.
Okay. Two things really quick before you get into your topic. One, if you want to chat with us, hop in the YouTube chat. It's the best way to do it. And if you want to do it in some other fashion, either hop into Twitch or get in the Discord. We're there. We're ready. And we're hanging out. So if you want to interact with us, it's been a while. We'll put that plug out there real quick. And also, I need to say this just because it needs to get off my mind. If anybody has Corsair products and you have to use IQ software for your like management of those products, can someone just validate my opinion that it is maybe the worst piece of software that exists? Every time it requires an update. So when I was updating my computer before this episode started, IQ needed an update. And this is the third update in a row for that software where it completely fails after the update. It literally gives me this massive pop-up when it restarts and says, your macros are failing. You need to repair this install, basically, which means you have to just uninstall it and reinstall it, which is and there's like a lot of custom settings that I'll put on that software too, like for the things that I want to manage in terms of, because they have like temperature management and everything on there. Just pisses me the fuck off. And I just needed to say that out loud. Corsair,
I get it, man.
Fix your shit. It's garbage.
A lot of companies need to fix their shit. So they can just go ahead and join the club there.
Topic is, hit us with the first one. Let's get into the real stuff here.
The real stuff. Oh, see, I was doing the fun fact, but I was really hoping you were going to come with the first topic, but that's okay.
I've got a lot of talking to do on this episode, so
let's talk it out. I will give you the honor of going first in our first episode back.
All right, let me pull out my note because this is going to be mostly me talking, and that's totally fine. So if you didn't know, recently I had a birthday, and in order to celebrate that birthday, I decided that because of my birthday being there, and I didn't really have any plans or anything to do, and I'd never been to Disney, so I was going to treat myself to become a child and go to Disney World or Disneyland. Sorry. So we did. I took a whole week off. We used Monday and Friday as travel days, and we went Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday to Disneyland. The first day we went to the OG Disneyland, and then the second 2 days we started at Disneyland Adventure Park, which is a different thing, but connected if you didn't know. So like they have that massive freaking campus in Anaheim, which is actually two separate parks. Okay, so I am going to spend this topic basically talking about pros and cons from the perspective of adults without children going to Disney. Because I think it's I wouldn't say it's like necessarily a unique circumstance, but I would say it is a niche group of people going to Disney if you are adults without kids. Right? Like I think a majority of people are going there. There's probably a stat out there, but I would say most people are probably going with kids or for kids, or, it's kids, younger people going, right? Like it's not your, 30-year-old adults going to Disney by themselves. Unless you are a Disney adult, which is a real thing. And if you didn't know what that is, look it up. Let me tell you, there's some motherfucking weird Disney adults out there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry if that offends you, if you're a Disney adult and you're listening to this, but there's some strange ass motherfuckers that do this like hyper Disney shit in their like adult life. And it just throws me off. So, okay. Jake, if you've ever been, I can't remember. I think you've said no.
I've been to Florida Disney. I haven't been to California Disney.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So you'll have opinions on this too, but things have probably changed since you've been there last because COVID changed a lot of things for Disney. So I'm going to walk through pros and cons. Basically, is how I'm going to formulate this conversation. Feel free to chime in whenever you want because I only get 15 minutes for this, and I could probably talk for a long time because we spent 3 full days there, and I learned a lot, hated a lot, and I loved a lot. So I will say overall, I did have a really good time. Like, it was not a wasted birthday. I wanted to get there. I got there and I had a great time. Okay. I'm going to start off with pros. So one of the main things that I wanted to go to Disney World for was Star Wars World, if you will, the Star Wars universe, because I am a big Star Wars nerd. And having been to Universal Studios and seen Harry Potter World and like having that literally light up my fucking life, I wanted that same experience from Star Wars. And so basically day one, Star Wars is in the OG Disneyland park. So we dart over to Star Wars. And thankfully, we got there soon enough that we were able to get in there before the lines got crazy. So I got to ride their most popular Star Wars ride, which was amazing. And I don't want to ruin it for anybody, but it's called Rise of the Resistance. And it's not a thrill ride per se. There's like some like partially thrill things. So if you're into thrills, it's not going to be the best, but the visuals that they put into this and like the amount of effort they put into detail on that ride is freaking insane. So that is probably the most immersed you will get into the Star Wars world is by going on that one ride. Okay. On top of that, they have a couple other Star Wars rides, and I didn't put them in pros or cons, but I would just say that they're very mediocre. The one is like borderline lame, almost makes it into the bad category, and the one is interactive, but it's more like kids, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Or if it was like me and Jake, because it's kind of like interactive in like a video game style, you and I might have had more fun than Carly and I would have, for example.
Oh yeah, I could totally see that.
That type of thing. Okay, moving on to the next one. Genie Plus. Genie Plus is their new Fast Pass system. If you are unfamiliar with like Fast Pass that help you get to the front of the line at theme parks, Genie Plus is what Disney uses now. They have like regular Genie service that you can use, but Genie Plus is the paid thing. And the bottom line from my perspective is that it is completely worth it if you're going to go to Disney. So your ticket to Disney is incredibly expensive, and it sucks, and it's awful to pay that amount to go to a theme park. It is absolutely insane. But Genie Pass is, I can't remember now, and I looked it up like 5 times because we almost didn't believe it when we saw it, but I think it's 15 or 20 bucks per ticket. So like in the grand scheme of things, you're not investing that much money, and you get to skip like very, very, very fucking long lines that you're going to experience, especially in the middle parts of the day. So it's so worth it.
Those passes, I am whatever theme park I'm at, I'm buying that version of the pass.
Yeah.
I'm never not doing it.
And I heard a lot of complaints about this one before I went there, which some of the things were totally valid, right? So like with the Genie Pass, you can only use it once per ride per day. So if there's a ride that you really love and you want to skip to the front a lot, you can't. It doesn't work that way. And I totally understand why that would be okay, Carly's at 25. I can totally understand why that would be a downside to it. But that being said, there is so much that you, especially on like the first day, there's so much you need to go do that you're not going to hit the same ride multiple times probably anyway, just because the amount of time you're going to spend doing everything there is to do. Okay. There's a ride, and I'm going to blank on it, and maybe Jake can Google while I'm talking, but it's called Soarin'. It's like Soarin' over the world. I don't know. We always just call it Soarin'. But it was, I would say, like maybe even potentially undersold, like an underpopular ride for the most part. Like every once in a while the lines would get long, but it usually wasn't too bad.
Soarin' around the world.
Soarin' around the world. Thank you. And it is potentially the best ride in that park. If you're okay, I will quantify that by saying if you're an experiential person and not necessarily thrills. And I can just say this now. I was going to kind of save it for later, but in general, Disney is not a thrill place, which I did not mentally prepare myself for. I had some people say like, oh, dude, if you want roller coasters, you got to go to Six Flags. And they'd say things like that. But I was like, whatever. There's going to be some good rides. It is not a thrill park, either of them. So just getting that out there. That being said, Soarin' is, and I don't want to do a lot of spoilers for any of these things because I think that some of the surprising things that they incorporated into some of these rides are what made them so great. Like Soarin' Around the World, I will not say really anything else about because it was totally unexpected and it was a great experience. So if you go there, go do that ride. The Guardians of the Galaxy ride, which was formerly the Tower of Terror at Disney, is fucking amazing. This is of maybe 3 thrill rides in the entire campus. This takes the cake. It's fucking amazing. It is an absolute awesome experience. So they converted it to, they have a day and night of Guardians of the Galaxy theme, and they're both awesome. They're very interactive. It's awesome. I don't want to spoil too much on that either. Some recommendations in basically is what's going to fall into this pro category too is if you can, don't stay at Disney. Don't stay on like their resorts. They're incredibly expensive, and it is absurd how much cheaper you can stay off campus within walking distance. So we were a mile and a half from the park. We walked it to and from every day, even with terrible pains in our feet by the end of the 3 days. And it was so worth it because we saved thousands of dollars not staying on the Disney campus. No kidding. Carly was terrified of that ride. So she's referring to the Guardians ride when she says it was terrible. So yeah, find a hotel within walking distance. You can find really nice hotels and they're way more reasonable. There's an incredible themed coaster called the Incredicoaster. It is awesome. It's never busy. I don't understand how it's never busy. It must be because there's like a bunch of kids that are afraid of it. But it is probably top 15 roller coasters I've been on in my life. Like it's pretty fucking good and it's a ton of fun. So you can basically ride that one on repeat without line skips. The Cars ride, so Cars the movie for kids, they have an entire area of the park that's amazing, dedicated to that. They put a lot of great effort into that, and it really looks like you're in the movie. And the ride is amazing, but the line is one of the longest in the park all the time, open to close. So you can pay. So you can't use Genie Plus on that, but you can pay to get to the front of that line. And honestly, we did it because it was, I think, $15 or $16 or something like that per person to skip to the front of the line, and it saved us probably 3 hours. So we
Oh
were
yeah,
like, totally worth it.
1000%.
So we did that. And then we ended up waiting on the third day because we wanted to do it one more time. So we waited in the line one more time. Space Mountain is amazing. It's one of the oldest rides, I think, in the park in terms of, and it was the first thrill ride Disney put into a park, I think. You can fact check me on that, but it was amazing. We rode that one so many freaking times because it is very popular, but some gamesmanship. If anything goes wrong at Disney, go see guest services.
Yep.
And they will add free fast passes to your ticket that you can use digitally. You just have to like kind of press them for it a little bit, but it is so worth it. We ended up with, I think, 4 or 5 free fast passes just from being like, hey, we were inconvenienced minorly by this thing. And they're like, okay. And to be fair, some of them were actually kind of fucked up, and I'll talk about that in the cons. The Rocky Mountain Railroad is another really good, fun roller coaster, and it's very chill and smooth. So even if you're not a thrill seeker, it's a good roller coaster. The bathrooms are always clean, and they inject nice smells into them so they don't smell like absolute fucking dog shit like other parks. So Disney, great job on the bathrooms. Totally recommend. They have an app that you have to use. You can't do Disney without the app, basically, unless you want to have like a pretty subpar experience. Pre-order your food before you go anywhere. If you want to book food, like restaurants, it's like nearly impossible if you want to do it last minute, but you can pre-order food and pick it up at the windows, and you're going to save yourself tons of fucking time. So do that. And I already talked about the Radiator Springs area and how it was great. Okay. Anything you want to say on pros before I move on to cons? And I'm going to have to kind of whip through this and talk a little bit less because I don't have a ton of time.
I love Disney. I haven't gone in 15 years, but the last time I went, it was great. So I have a very, I probably wouldn't like it as much just because one of my favorite things is the like going to any park is the ride experience. So like when we'd go down to Disney, my favorite was always going to Universal because they had all the rides.
Yeah.
So that was
my lesson.
Yeah, that was always my thing. But I also think it would be like, I feel like my best way to imagine the Disney experience is I wouldn't want to go with just Jess. I would want to go with like me, Jess, you, and Carly.
Yeah.
Not even that, but just like another group of friends, like another couple, somebody who can like experience it with you. Because like while it's cool to do it on your own, there's also, you know, I think a lot of the things, especially like for you and I, both Harry Potter nerds, both Star Wars nerds, like we would love doing that shit together in a way, and both of our wives would just be like, good for you.
I think I don't know if I wrote it specifically in this list, but Carly and I worked on this list together, so props to her for putting this together. But I probably said no less than 15 times while we were at Disney how much better Harry Potter World was than anything Disney put together. And Universal doesn't have nearly the budget as Disney. So it was it was so shocking to me how much better Universal was. I'll just say that because Harry Potter World was fucking amazing. Carly said bobsled was their first thrill ride and it's dog shit. So if you want to have the roughest ride of your life, go ahead and do that. Uncle Kyle said, I wonder if Space Mountain is the same as in Florida. And Carly answered that for her and said it is, and it's amazing in both parks. But they just closed the Disney one. So I'm assuming she's referring to Disney World that it just closed, which I did not know.
I didn't either.
Okay. I'm going to burn through cons because I don't have a ton of time. So let's just move through this quick. Sorry if I have to talk fast. They sell churros. They smell amazing. Everybody brags up the churros, right? Go get a churro. Jack in the Box dollar churros are better. Like,
oof.
The churros at the park are not good. They overcook the shit out of them. They're like crunchy, not soft, not good. And on the same note, there's never a time where we found spectacular food or like snacks or whatever in the park at all. Just really wasn't great. There is not enough water stations, like drinking fountains or water refill, which is what we were really hoping for. You can bring water bottles into the park, but they just give you nowhere to fill them up. So it is, when you're there all day and it's hot, it is a pain in the ass because you'll walk halfway across the park just to get water. Carly said their hand soap sucks. I didn't have that same experience, but she hated it and she's a hand soap girl. So I'll throw that one out there. In general, the Star Wars world was underwhelming. It was, like I said, subpar compared to Harry Potter World, which I am a giant nerd about. The Haunted Mansion, which has maybe the second, or if not longest lines out of both parks, is the biggest fucking waste of time in your life. And we would say that to people when we randomly talked to people at Disney, and they were like, you didn't like this? And I will spoiler alert this a little bit and say that all you do is sit stationary in a cart and they move you around in a room full of Disney haunted themed things. It's boring. It's borderline puts you to sleep. And on that same note, Pirates of the Caribbean is the same thing, except for they put you on a little boat thing that you float around in very slowly and spend 30 minutes of your life looking at old fucking decorations from the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, basically. Terrible. Don't waste your time on those. Very few thrill rides, and there's plenty of better rides at other parks. So if you're a thrill person and you want to go just see Disney because you've never seen it before, like me, still do it. But you're not going to get the thrill. So set yourself up for success and not thinking you're going to get that. Both parks are mostly catered to kids. We found out that they never gave us a heads up, but the third day we were there, they closed one of the parks 4 hours early, and they gave us no notification at all. And they had a special event there that night, and you had to have special tickets to get into it. And so I went and talked to guest services, and they're like, we notify everybody. And she was kind of fucking snooty with me, and it pissed me off. And I pressed her, and she ended up giving me free fast passes. But she was kind of rude about it. And I was like, listen, I can show you my email history. There's no notification in there. I never got a text. I never got an alert in the app. I never got any of this shit. And she was like, basically told me I was a liar. So kind of got screwed on that one, but it ended up working out because we were tired and wanted to go back to the other park anyway. Cost is extremely high for Disney for the lack of experience that you get. 95% of your day is waiting in lines. Semi-true of any theme park, but it's pretty damn bad. We went on the weekdays for shorter lines and it was still packed. And we went in during a season that was supposed to be less busy, still packed. San Francisco is a really freaking cool area, which is from Big Hero 6, if you didn't know.
Mm-hmm. Really
cool area, but there's no rides.
Yeah, that sucks.
You just walk through it. It's just visual. And then we got to meet Baymax, which was kind of cool. If you're into that sort of thing. It's a small world, made us want to die. Same concept. All you do is go very slow motion through the park and listen to It's a Small World being sung in like 50 different languages. And it is so fucking annoying.
Yeah, I'm good on that.
Terrible. Not enough single rider lanes. This is big if you're a thrill person too, because Carly never wants to go on them. And I want to be able to skip lines a little bit. And if I'm out of fast passes, I'm stuck waiting in the full line because only like 2 fucking ones had single rider lines. Their app that you must use in order to have a decent experience in Disney is fucking terrible. Their app is so goddamn garbage.
They usually are.
And it's a massive battery drain. So that sucks. Speak of the devil, take a battery pack with you. You couldn't click on things. The map didn't show you any information. It didn't show you where things were. It was basically just like a fucking screenshot. It was kind of garbage. There's no shade at that park. They could definitely do a better job of like creating artificial shade, and they just chose not to. If you want to use public transit while you're there to go from like a hotel to the Disney theme park, a place like a hotel might advertise that they have a shuttle. They don't. It's a fucking public city bus that they just tell you to go ride. And their app is also garbage and very confusing. And it doesn't tell you like what lines go where. You have to like really dig into it to figure out where the fuck you're going. So we just ended up just walking. You have to wait in long lines to see characters, which is like, I get it, but at the same time, it was just annoying. Downtown Disney is really chalked up too to like be something great, and it's very fucking expensive, and the food is terrible. So don't do that. Don't fall for that trap. I already talked about the Krabby guest services, which was really just one experience, but it was very annoying. You really shouldn't have to go to guest services to get passes if a ride breaks down, because like especially when you're scanning a pass to get in, they should just auto repopulate it, but they don't. You have to talk to guest services, which is kind of annoying. Speaking of breakdowns, tons and tons and tons and tons of rides broke down. Even like brand new rides were breaking down constantly, and so you're going to get that everywhere, I guess, but it just seemed way worse here than other places I've been to. Sit-down restaurants have to be reserved, and guess when they open the reservations? 6 months in advance. No shit.
Oof.
Which is insane. You also have to make reservations just to go to the park, so make sure if you buy tickets, you understand that you also need to make a reservation. Your ticket is not your reservation. That's everything I have. That was a little bit over time, but there is your down and dirty of if you're an adult going to Disney without children, tips and tricks, pros and cons, things like that. If you have questions, happy to answer them. Other than that, I will end my topic and let Jake speak.
Yeah, it was a good topic. Everybody needs to know about the struggles of Disney because it's always chalked up as, the happiest place on earth.
It is
but in reality, there's a lot of downsides to it, even though it can be a great time.
No, I had fun. Like I said, I have to try to be not totally pessimistic about it because I did have fun. Things
yes,
I enjoyed,
sir.
for sure.
All right, let's hop into my topic. I'll go with a little bit of a quick hitter here. This one shouldn't take too long, as we are both watching this football game and trying to figure out if Justin Jefferson caught that pass or not.
Mine locked up a while ago, so I need to catch back up.
Anyways, I had a blast watching football on Sunday. I'm so happy that football is back, but it's even better when you can do it with your friends, like I did with my buddy Ryan and his girlfriend Maddie, who were out there with us.
Nice.
But Kyle, I want to know, how does your ideal football Sunday go?
This could go one of two ways. I would say, relatively speaking, most of my football Sundays, I just want to be on the couch. I don't want to have to work on anything else. I don't want to have to think about anything else. I just want to be on my couch. And if it's a best case scenario, I have football snacks, right? Like I'm eating Little Smokies or nachos or buffalo chicken dip or something like that. And I am sitting on my couch, basically immobilized for 8 hours. That's kind of ideal.
It's a great way to do it. I'll tell you what we did, and then you can kind of, judge us on how we did it or tell us how you would do it differently.
Sure.
But we met up at a local bar / restaurant out here called Anchor Bar. Fun fact, the original Anchor Bar in Buffalo is credited with creating the Buffalo Wing. But so we went there. We watched the entire first slate there. Obviously, ate a bunch of wings, drank a bunch of beer, had a great time. Went back to the house, kept drinking, had a good time, watched the games. 3:00 games ended, went outside, had a stogie. Ryan, I think, had 2. That or he took a cigar home. I don't know.
That's pretty intense.
We were having a good time. And then we went out to another bar very close to us to watch the night game. And then we just went home and went to bed.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to do it, to be honest with you. I mean, it's a lot of drinking. I'd probably be like borderline passing out by like halfway through the night game, especially if I was on your time zone.
Oh, we definitely paced it. It was not like I didn't hit tipsy until like right before we left the house and just drove to the bar. So that made life a lot easier. But yeah, I had a lot of Coors Light, had a few shots courtesy of Ryan because
nice.
That's just his go-to. Had a couple Vegas bombs. What else do we have?
I haven't had a Vegas bomb since I was.
No, we just had
college,
Vegas bombs.
Maybe
that's all we had. Delicious, absolutely wonderful shot. Especially when you need that.
If I had any bomb right now, I'd probably gag, just because of the level to which we drank those in college. Jaeger bombs, Vegas bombs, like Red Bull bombs of any kind.
So good. The little caffeine kick it gets you is certainly helpful too. But this weekend, when we watch the games, Ryan and I are just going to go sit at a cigar lounge for like 10 hours.
I like your first option better, and this is why. Cigar lounges, some of them don't serve alcohol.
They don't serve alcohol, but it is BYOB.
Okay, that's better. You can bring like a nice bottle of whiskey then and make it work out.
That's exactly what we're doing. We're like, we can get a nice bottle of whiskey, or like, since it's us, just like whiskey.
I was just gonna say, I actually recommend the one whiskey that I drink all the time now that I think you had some while you were here. It's very, very smooth. It's pretty cheap. I can send you the label for it. And,
yeah. I know. Isn't it?
I get it at Total Wine, but you can probably get it anywhere.
I was going to say, I know which one you're talking about. I'm blanking on the name, but I do know which one you're talking about.
They just reversed the call. Was it not a catch then, or was it a catch? Sorry, I'm catching up.
Ball out of the end zone. So is that a turnover?
No.
Yes. Yeah. Fumble out of the end zone. It's a touchback.
What?
So Philly gets the ball on the 20.
That is nonsense. Okay.
Or 25, whatever it is. But
sorry, I need to take a drink. Anyway, if you can bring so anyway, that whiskey is nice but cheap. So like it's smooth and you'd have a good time, I think, sipping on that. But anyway, I am a person that could definitely not sit down and do cigars for a whole day.
Yeah,
I probably couldn't even do 2 in a day unless I had drank enough that I was just making bad decisions. You know what I mean? So
to be fair, 2 is probably what I'm going to have. If you pace a cigar out, it's going to take you an hour plus anyway. It should, if you're smoking it right, in theory. Yeah. So I'll probably cap myself at 2. But again, once the whiskey starts flowing, maybe 3. Who knows? But the cigar lounge is also super close to his house. It's super close to a bunch of bars, right in his area. So that's our plan currently. Knowing us, we're gonna hit about 4:00, and both of us are gonna be like, my lungs are on fire. Let's just go drink at a bar, and that way Jess and Maddie can come join us, so that they don't have to just. I don't know what they're gonna do, but they're gonna do something. I'll figure it out Saturday because we're seeing them on Saturday as well to drink all day. I'm starting to think I have a problem. But we have a local. They call it Brew at the Bridge. It's basically like a bunch of craft breweries come out and set up sampling tents in one of the parks in our town. So there's going to be like 15 different breweries that are coming out there with beers that we get to sample. So it'll be a good time. But yeah, I love that football's back, but football truly is so much better to me when you can do it with somebody else. Like sitting at home by yourself and watching football all day is awesome. But even like you and I, when we used to do that, we used to just sit in Discord and watch football all day.
Yep. Yeah, and I will say this: it needs to be somebody that's into football. And no
Oh,
offense to Carly, because Carly will get into like, I will say get into Dallas games with me, where she'll like interact or talk shit to me just to fuck with me when the games are happening or whatever. Like she will do that for that, but she will not participate in any way, shape, or form for the long term for like all of the games that I want to watch. So I would say do that with somebody that actually cares to be around football. But also, I was gonna just to go back to what I was saying at first. There's two ways that I would kind of do football, and one of them is the way that I described, and the other way is if possible, right? Like if it works out and the scheduling works and everything. And I live in a new area where like I don't have a whole bunch of football homies or anything out here. But if you can go to like the bar and sit and have a few drinks and apps or whatever and watch at least like one segment of games, whether it be like the afternoon games or whatever.
Yeah, the 3 o'clock.
Here, you don't want to do the 10 a.m. games, so you probably do like the 1 o'clock games and go watch that and like sit at the bar and have that. Like that's probably the better way too, because then you're like, especially when you have like opposing fans in a bar at the same time, it gets kind of rowdy and kind of fun. So it would be great too.
That was the best part is that like Ryan and his brother are with us in Steelers jerseys.
Yep.
I didn't even wear a Bears jersey. I wore my old Broncos Terrell Davis jersey. There's dudes in Ravens jerseys. I think I saw a Panthers jersey for some reason.
Yeah.
Sucks for that guy. But yeah.
As a Bears fan, I don't know if you have that much room to talk right now.
Listen.
We'll see what happens this week.
Neither do any of my Steeler fan friends, because at least Ryan got to. It was fun watching Ryan's team get destroyed. It was less fun watching Ryan watch my team get destroyed.
That's kind of how that goes.
So at least we got to suffer together. But yeah, I just think I'm so happy that football's back. It truly is. Opening day should be like the Monday after opening day. Opening Sunday should be a national holiday. I should be able to black out when my team loses and not have to worry about it on Monday, is all I'm saying.
Let me say this in response to Uncle Kyle said this a while ago, but I am a Dallas fan, and watching Dallas just absolutely pummel the piss out of the New York Giants was perhaps one of the greatest things I've ever seen.
Yeah, that was fun to watch.
I had a great fucking time just watching that unfold, and Dallas defense is amazing, and I hope their offense isn't as bad as they might be. And I'll just leave it at that.
They
could be great, but they just didn't have the opportunity to really show it. So I'm really hoping that's the real thing, because Dak threw like 50%. So.
Oh man, that was a fun. Are they about to attempt a 60-yard field goal? I think they are.
Probably. I think you're probably
but anyways,
ahead of me right now. 3 seconds left. Yeah, probably.
Anyways, Kyle, how was your first beer?
I'm still getting through it, and I say that not to be like totally negative about it, but it is on the bitter side of a stout, which makes me think that they should probably label this more of a porter. Which I'm sure that there is like a sciencey thing behind this for the reason why it's a stout and not a porter. I'm just not a sciencey beer expert.
Probably.
But all I'm saying is it tastes more like a porter than a stout to me, which I don't like porters. So it's okay as a pure alcoholic beverage. But if you were expecting a peanut butter stout, that is not what this is. And for that reason, I will give it a 2.25.
Yeah, mine was tasty, but this for not being a smoothie sour was really heavy, which is
It looks kind of thick.
Yeah, it was. And I don't love that if I'm not prepared for it.
Yeah.
And there wasn't like
expectation management.
When I get the smoothie sours, I like that there's a little bit of complexity to it because they have like varying flavors. Yeah. This just being blackberry, which isn't my favorite fruit to begin with, it was fine. I'd give it like a 2.5. Like I'd drink it again if somebody gave it to me, but I'm not buying another can of it. I'm never going out of my way to order it. And he made that field goal, 61-yard field goal for the Eagles, up 13-7. But all right, Kyle, what is topic number 2 for you this evening?
Before that, just so I don't have to interrupt a topic later, I'm just going to go ahead and get this over with now, which is my next beer. And it is another Epidemic Ale. So hopefully this one's a little bit better, but it's the OG Nightshade Stout is what I'm going with next. So another stout for today. And this one is supposed to just be a chocolate style classic stout. Nothing really fancy about it, just allowing the chocolate malts to shine, they say. So it can be winning over the original gangster, in their words, not mine. So I will start that as soon as I finish this other.
I'm going to go over to Raspberry Cheesecake Slang du Jour Sour a la Mode from Drecker Brewing. which is, as anybody who is listening to this podcast knows, is my favorite brewery. And I think I'm going to get that little Viking dude on their logo tattooed on me just because of how much I love their beer.
Let me just say it's halftime now, so we'll have less distractions. But I think the Eagles coach is maybe the worst personality in all of football.
I like Nick Sirianni.
I think he's such a douchebag.
He is, but that's kind of why I like him.
I don't know. If it was a player, I might like deal with it. Like there's some douchey players out there though that I can get some entertainment from, but just he has a punchable face and he's just kind of a douche.
He
so
does.
I don't like
He does have a very punchable face. I will give you that much.
All right. Anyway, I'm going to get into my next topic. And for the sake of it, I think both of these are kind of silly. So it's a good thing I went over my other one because I don't know how long this is going to go. But I'm going to go with this topic and maybe it'll draw some things to your mind. And if not, I can start because I have a few of them. This is a little wordy, so bear with me. Based on the way you were raised, so thinking of your own upbringing, what is an experience that you had that you pictured it going a certain way in your mind, and then when you actually went and did that thing for the first time, it was so far off from what you thought it would be? Or like you just walked into it and like you presented yourself in such a way that was just drastically different than the way that you needed to for a circumstance. Something like that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get the question.
Let me give you an example. This will help.
Okay.
I grew up essentially poor, right? So I wasn't like living on the streets, right? Like we had a house, but not with a lot of money. And because of that, I didn't grow up in a family that gambled, right? So everything that I knew about casinos growing up was from movies. So I'll never forget, I was 18 years old and I went to Minnesota where you can go to casinos when you're 18. And I was up there to go snowboarding. And my buddies were like, hey, let's go to the casino and throw a few dollars on the table. And I was like, yo, I don't have a tuxedo with me. I don't think I said something like that, but I was just like, I don't have nice clothes. You know what I mean? Like this mental picture in my mind because of my entire life being things like Ocean's 11, right? Where you, like all you see is suits in the casino.
Yeah, they're in high roller casinos where the minimum bid is 10 grand at the cheapest table.
Yeah. So in my mind, I had this picture of like going and looking so nice at the casino. And so I ended up convincing my friend who had been to a casino before. So good for him for humoring me. His name's also Kyle. He's like, all right, dude, we'll dress kind of nice. Like we'll wear a button-up shirt and some like slacks and we'll go to the casino. And I was like, all right, perfect. Right. So we dress up a little bit and we go to the casino, walk in, and it is perhaps the trashiest thing. Looking back, it's probably the worst casino I've ever been to. Other than like the bar gambling machines in like Illinois that you guys have. Because
hey, man, terrible. You watch your goddamn mouth about my machines.
This was probably the worst. It's just a bunch of fucking chain smoking old ladies and rednecks and shit. And so I walked in like a button up shirt. And everybody was just like, what the fuck is this guy doing? So because of the way that I was raised and the experiences I had, that was a thing that I was not mentally prepared for.
Okay. I've got one for me. Going to a bar for the first time.
Okay.
Because I didn't know what to expect. Because my parents never went to bars. My parents would drink at home with friends. We'd go to a party, like a family party. They would drink there. They would, get drinks at a restaurant. But so I had no idea of what going to a bar was like. So I fully expected every bar that I went to be like Coyote Ugly.
Yeah.
And I was like, kind of the opposite of you. No, kind of the same thing flip side of you, where I thought like I had to dress down a little bit to go to a bar. Cause I was like, every time I've ever seen anybody in a bar, they're wearing a plaid shirt and jeans.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I guess that's what we do. And then I walk into a small town bar. So at least, I got the small town bar part right.
Yeah, right.
But then there's like, it kind of the same thing, like the same experience where you walk in and you're like, holy shit, I could have just worn shorts.
Yeah.
I could be here in mud covered boots. I could be, I'm wearing shirts with paint stains and everything on it. Like same kind of thing there. So I totally get that experience because that was definitely one for me.
Do you have Discord up?
I do.
Do me a favor and share the link for our YouTube into the Discord because somebody's asking how to watch us live right now. So please do that because I need you to do it because you probably have access more than I do. Okay.
I do.
Another one for me. So along the same lines, right? And I would say a lot of these come from a financial background problem, right? Like it is a perception of things that I try to wrap my head around, and I just don't understand it because of not having experienced or entered into that type of a financial environment, right? So the other one is fancy dining for me. And I will say, even to just define what that is for one, but also what is it? And maybe this is easier quantified as like saying fancy dressing, right? So like to me, dressing nice is Kohl's dress pants and shirt and whatever their cheapest tie, right? Like that is
Yeah.
the equivalent of, right? So I would dress, in my opinion, probably nice the first time I ever went out to eat at like an actually nice restaurant, right? Like I'm not talking about Olive Garden that you thought was nice growing up. I'm talking about I went to a reservation
Right.
restaurant, and I go in and sit down and I'm like, holy fuck, maybe I'm underdressed, right? You know what I mean? Because you just don't understand what it means to look like that, to fit in that environment. And so I still think I don't think I'm ever going to feel comfortable in a like truly fancy environment because of the way I was raised. Like I
Same.
still feel uncomfortable. Even going to like a chain, right? Like so Carly and I used to go to Fleming's every year for our anniversary when we lived in Arizona because we had access. I don't think we have it around here. Maybe we do. But we'd always go because it was a nice meal. We enjoyed it. We liked the atmosphere. You know, you get a little fancy, things like that. So it is a chain steakhouse. But it was fancy, right? Like it's not Texas Roadhouse. Like you're going to a place where people
Right.
dress nice and the meals are expensive, things like that, right? And I will never walk into that place and feel comfortable. Like I always feel a little out of place. And that's just a part of the way that I was raised, right? Like I went to fucking McDonald's and Olive Garden and all that shit, right? Like I never went to those places, and so I never got that sense of comfort going there, and I probably never will.
Yeah, I definitely get that. One thing for me, which this is going to sound kind of contrasting because I've definitely done this, but like growing up, I thought it was normal to get a new car every few years because that's what
Yeah.
my parents always did.
Yeah.
And then I bought a car and I was like, how the fuck am I ever going to afford another car? Like I wasn't prepared for that
Yeah.
trend. Like my parents did a good job of preparing me for adulthood in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But I think like I grew up, I don't want to say we grew up wealthy because we're not rich by any means, but we grew up very well off.
Sure.
And so like I thought a lot of things were normal. Like people, like I used to have friends come over and they'd be like, "Oh my God, you live in a mansion." I'm like, this is first off, not a mansion, still not a mansion, nowhere close. But then like I would go to a friend's house and then I'd be like, okay, I get why you have this perspective.
Sure.
Right. Cause like,
that's like my house. If you would have come to my house, you'd have been like, okay, I get
yeah.
it.
Cause like the house that a lot of my friends grew up in is a lot like my house that I bought.
Yeah.
Versus the house that I grew up in. And so for me, it was like, I almost feel like I fucked up by not buying a house that's like my parents' house was. But then I remember that, like, one, my parents made a lot more money than I do.
Yeah.
And two, like, that wasn't their first home. That was like the third different house that they had bought.
Yeah, sure.
Like over time. So for me, it was just like, I think that perspective of like what your first car should look like, what your first house should look like I wasn't prepared for any of that. And when I didn't like do what my parents did, I felt like I fucked up somehow, when in reality I didn't at all. Like I'm doing
I can't
very
imagine
well.
the culture shock for people that grow up with families that are like outwardly facing very wealthy, but really they're just in tons of debt, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're a kid that grows up in a family that has Mercedes and you live in like a $500,000 house, but you find out after the fact, like as an adult, that your parents are barely meeting the monthly payment on all those loans and they're in $100,000 of credit card debt, right? Like, but you feel the need to maintain that standard of living into your adult life. And so like you're setting yourself up while your parents are setting you up for failure immediately to try to get yourself into debt, to try to maintain that image. Right. And so for that, I'm actually a little bit thankful. Like I don't need to buy nice clothes or anything like that. Like this is the most expensive thing that I have, probably, other than maybe a pair of pants. Right. Like, and so, which is totally fine to me, but also it contributes to the fact that I don't feel comfortable in really nice places. Right. Like, I mean, there's a give and take there, which goes into my next one, which is golf. So, with the job that I have now, a lot of people play golf. Right. And so, I was convinced to go play golf for the first time ever when I was 23 years old. And so I was like, okay, we're going to do this. I don't know what this means. Well, thank God that there was a course that had low standards. It was basically like,
Yep.
so the one that we went to was a split course. So it's two 18 holes
Yep.
courses on the same land. One was like the collar place and one was dress however you want. Thankfully, my friends were like had enough awareness to take me to the non-fancy one, because I think I showed up in jeans and like Nike shoes and a t-shirt. And I look back on that and I'm like, fuck, was I woefully unprepared to enter into a sport for financially literate people. You know what I mean? Like I was, talk about being out of place. And the first time I ever golfed with Carly, I threw the club because I'd only swung a golf club one more time in my life.
Yeah.
Right? Like I didn't have a fucking clue. I still don't have a clue what I'm doing, by the way. With golf, I am a terrible, terrible golfer, and I have no intention of ever really probably being good at it. Maybe when I'm retired, but I was just so fucking out of place. And like I was 100%. Like I think my dad's golfed probably a little bit in his life.
Yeah.
But it wasn't something he was going to teach me. And
Right.
so I was not prepared for the standards that are expected on a golf course.
I was definitely a little bit of the opposite because I grew up. I don't want to say I grew up playing golf, but I grew up around golf a lot. Like both of my parents, my mom played. My mom was actually a pretty competent golfer. My dad was a really good golfer. My grandpa was a basically like a pro level golfer for a while. So like I grew up around golf, and so I went to one of the courses like the one that you described, where you can wear whatever you want. I show up in shorts, golf shoes, belt, collared shirt. And I'm playing with three of my friends who are in cutoffs, gym shorts. Two of them played barefoot. Like, it's golf is an interesting sport in a lot of ways, but don't worry. We'll have a good time when I force you to go golfing when I come visit you.
I don't hate golf. I'm so self-conscious because I'm so bad.
You shouldn't
that
be.
I'm uncomfortable on the course, right? And
most people are you.
And I will tell you, and this goes into my last one. Let me say this last part. Financial literacy is something that I was uncomfortable with trying to figure it out in my adult life because I didn't really grow up with it. Like my mom, I love my mother. She has not a lot of great financial intuition, and my dad just pays someone to do it for him. Right. So in terms of localized financial knowledge, there's none in my family. And so I had to figure it all out myself, and with the help of some friends, some really great friends that contributed to my knowledge and some research. Right. So like I have figured those things out. But now I got to figure out where I was going with this sentence. But the long story short of this, why did I transition to financial literacy and related to golf?
You said golf was a sport for the financially illiterate at one point.
Well, that's totally true. But I feel like there was a better connection to what we were just talking about. But either way, my point is like that's another place where I was really uncomfortable. And it's because I didn't grow up around it. And now I feel like I am way more comfortable. So I've gotten to the point where now I feel comfortable giving advice to other people, not a financial advisor, but I feel comfortable making those things. However, I have been, and I will throw this plug out there really quick. I've been watching a lot of YouTube shorts because I refuse to do TikTok. And there's a financial guy that I watch a lot, and he talks about how people are not credit card people. And I have made a lot of plugs for credit cards. And now I understand that I should probably really, really, really heavily caveat those statements to say,
you do
only do this if you can afford to pay it off every month, right? Like unless you're not, or if you are using it as a debit card, you're probably fine, right? Like spend, pay, right? Like you do not carry a balance. If you are somebody that cannot or shouldn't be able to afford to pay off in the entirety of card, you are not a credit card person, and you should not do that. So I'll throw that out there really quick because that guy is, I should like totally throw his name in this, by the way, but I just can't remember what it is because he's helping a lot of people with financial literacy.
It's probably Dave Ramsey. He's very,
it's not, it's a very, very, very small YouTube channel. But the dude is awesome.
No, I know who you're talking about. Is he the one that like yells
he sounds like Charlie Day. Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
He sounds
I know
like Charlie
exactly who you're talking about.
Charlie hates it when I like pull up his stuff because he has a very high pitched voice when he gets frustrated by people's terrible financial decisions.
Which is every video that he does for the most
part.
Yeah,
it is every single one of them. But if I find him while Jake is moving on to our next topic, I'll plug him on the podcast here because I respect the dude for what he's doing, and I think he does a great job.
Yeah. Anyways, we're gonna have a great time. Quick point on golf.
Here it is. Caleb Hammer.
Yep.
Caleb Hammer Clips is the @ on YouTube, but Caleb Hammer, awesome dude doing some really, really freaking great stuff for people that grew up like me without financial literacy. And you can totally tell from all of the interviews he does.
Hey, the Vikings turned the ball over again.
That's
What a
unfortunate.
surprise. Anyways, not to brag, but kind of to brag. I play off of like technically right now I'm a 3 handicap. Realistically, I'm probably closer to a 7. I've just had some really good rounds this year. But I'm in like the top 2% of golfers in the world. I think it's like 95% of golfers can't break 100. So you're going to do just fine every time that you're out on the golf course, Kyle. Anyways, to transition here.
Oh, that's where I was going with this. Let me make this connection really quick. I'm sorry. Financial literacy. I went to a meeting with a financial advisor to try to help myself get educated on financial literacy. It was supposed to be a no pressure thing. It was pressured. But anyway, I went to see this guy and they did the event at Topgolf and I made a mockery of myself in front of a lot of fucking people. And this guy was actively like making fun of me. And so I'm
That guy's
still
just a
scarred
dick,
from
then.
that experience as well too. Terrible at golf. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
One more tush push. Another touchdown for me for Jalen Hurts. Yay. Anyways, to transition to the last topic, I got this topic idea from Jess. And Jess, over the past, I'll call it just in 2023 really, has been super into reading. I used to be into reading. I'm not the most avid reader by any means. I much prefer me an ebook or an audiobook, I should say.
Audiobooks, yeah. For sure.
But I'm just curious, Kyle, what are some of your favorite books that you've ever read? Do you like books like do you like nonfiction? Do you like fiction? Do you like memoirs? What are you as a reader?
Yeah, happy to answer this one. I think we've talked in similar ways about this a very long time ago, so we can definitely revisit this. But I would say that I am a fantasy reader, right? Like I don't read a lot of nonfiction, and that's partially to my discredit or to my demise. I don't know what the right word is to say there, but
Detriment.
yeah, detriment. Thank you. That's a good word. I'd be probably better off and learn more if I did that. But in order to keep my attention, I have a tendency towards fiction. Some of the best books I've ever read are Star Wars, and I've plugged a lot of them on this podcast before. So if you want recommendations on those, I would recommend Plagueis. It's actually Darth Plagueis is the title of the book. It's one of the best books that I think I've ever read. And then the Darth Bane series. It's 3 books from Star Wars that are amazing. So I will say those right off the bat. But to the credit of my English literature teachers in high school, I have also read some more famous novels, I would say, that really grabbed my attention. And among them, one of them is Crime and Punishment. I think Crime and Punishment is one of the best books I've ever read. But I had to read it with a dictionary by my side because it was Crime and Punishment is a Raskolnikov is the character. What's the author? Dostoevsky. It's a Dostoevsky book. And he is a Russian author whose works have been translated to English, and he uses a lot of big words. So be prepared. And I tried to read one of his other books after high school, and I even with a dictionary by my side, and he also made a lot of biblical references. And so I, no kidding, had a digital Bible and a physical dictionary, and I was like trying to figure out what the fuck this guy was talking about, and I couldn't keep up, so I gave up on that one. But that was the brothers Kazmarov or something like that. Tried to read it, couldn't do it. Too stupid.
For me, I'm actually a big nonfiction guy. I really like reading sports specifically, like reading they did a book about the 2016 Cubs World Series run. I really like that. Jim Thorpe has I guess it's technically a biography because he didn't write it. So there's a biography about his life that I really enjoy. But I also, again, like you said, to the credit of my English teachers growing up, English language arts, books like The Great Gatsby, 1984, To Kill a Mockingbird, like those are still some of my favorite books of all time. And then even though I'm not religious whatsoever, even though I'm not religious whatsoever, The 5 People You Meet in Heaven is by Mitch Albom is one of my favorite books of all time.
I was also going to plug a Mitch Albom book, which is Tuesdays with Morrie.
Also a phenomenal book.
It's a lot of religious references in that book, but it's, if you can look past the religion as a non-religious person, or just respect the values that they have because of religion, however you want to look at it, that is an amazing book. And I actually read it in college as a part of my capstone for college. I had a very unique, I think, instructor and course in general for capstone because it didn't really relate to the content I had in college, which is a non-standard way to do a capstone. And I think it was more delivered towards creating a mature adult, than it was creating somebody that was good at their major.
Right.
Which is a good thing in my opinion, because my major was basically useless. But anyway, Tuesdays with Morrie was something that I read, and I remember coming home and talking to Carly about it because we were dating at the time, and she was like, "Oh, somebody has talked to me about this book," and I gave it to her, and I'm not sure if she can maybe chime in and say if she ever read it, but it is a phenomenal book. A lot of life lessons in there.
It may be one of the few books where I do think I prefer the movie.
I've never seen the movie.
It's a good movie. And then on the flip side, a movie series that I watched the movies first and then read the book, and then much preferred the way that the book told the story than the movies, was the Maze Runner series.
You said you preferred the books to the movies? Is that what you just said?
Correct.
Yeah, the Maze Runner books are well, I read the first one. I didn't read past that, but the movies are kind of garbage.
I still really enjoy the movies, but you have to recognize in a way. I do understand where you're coming from there. Jess and I both really love them. But the way that the books tell the story is a much better storytelling experience, which is often the case with books versus movies. But I think the movies, obviously, I recognize when you make a book into a movie, you do have to make it more entertaining. Like, you have to captivate the audience's attention. You have to change some things. I totally get that. There's like the Harry Potter reference where he's like, Dumbledore is like, in the book, it's like, asks Harry calmly, and then in the movie, he's screaming at him. Like, you have to do some stuff like that. But I do.
We're talking in the Discord chat about this right now. If you're not tracking, we're talking about the Harry Potter books.
But I do really think that they changed the story so much that you have to read the books to really get why the movies were done the way they are.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, different in a lot of ways. I think a lot of them, like, you can treat kind of both as a standalone thing, but you understand why the movie is the way it is so much more if you read the books, which I do think is a bit unique.
Yeah, right on. And I will say, because it's getting brought up in the Discord chat and we're talking about this, Harry Potter is one of the few series of books that I've ever read in its entirety. Big Harry Potter nerd. Through and through, love the books. My grandma used to buy them for me when they'd come out. I am old enough to say that. So to this young audience that's in our podcast chat on Discord, which is far younger than me, I was reading the books before the movies came out. So there's part of it. But the books themselves, my grandma would buy them the day they came out, and she'd come to the house and give it to it. And my brother and I would share, and we'd take turns reading. We'd go like, I get 100, you get 100, right? Like, we'd go pages like that kind of. And then we would try to stay in competition to see who could stay up later. So that way you could get more pages than you were supposed to be reading, you know? So I'd read way ahead of my brother or vice versa, right? So like, loved the books. And then the last one is To Kill a Mockingbird. There we go.
Yep.
No, we already said that. Sorry. Yeah. I'm thinking Mockingbird because I'm actually thinking Mockingjay. There we go. Which is
Hunger Games.
Hunger Games. Fuck me. Thank you. Those books are so much better than the movies.
I don't think I've actually read the books.
I read the books before the movies came out, maybe, or I saw the first movie and then read all 3 books before the other movies came out. I don't remember exactly, but those were popular, really, really, really popular books for a while. And so I got into those and read them, and I really enjoyed those books. I think I still have them somewhere.
Random last second insertion here. The Twilight series, both as books and movies, are good. Maybe that's a hot take. I think for a lot of people it's a hot take, but I enjoyed both the books and the movies very thoroughly.
I think the people that really hate on the Twilight movies do it from the sense of like the perspective or representation of like vampires is so corny, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
Like the glittery bullshit is so kind of out to lunch compared to every other representation of like the vampire.
Right.
From fantasy. And so I get that. Like, I understand that. But I think from a pure entertainment standpoint, I agree with you. I think they do a pretty good job just to keep you entertained. That being said, Kristen Stewart, right? That's her name, I think.
Yep.
Terrible actress in those movies.
Yeah.
I don't know what she's like in anything else, but you need to have.
I've seen some good stuff with her, but she can
You
do
should
one
probably
thing.
have some level of fucking emotion, and she does not have that in any of those. I'm not a very emotional person. Devonta Smith is going to the house, but that being said, I just was not a fan of her in those movies. So
I respect it. Anyways, rate your last beer before we do our outro.
I haven't drank much of it. They're not wrong in the fact that this is probably a good representation of a classic stout. Definitely not as bitter. It's pretty decent. I'm going to give this, I'm teetering on the edge between a 2.75 and a 3.0, but because I think it's like fine, I'm going to go with a 2.75.
I respect it. This is actually delicious, but because it's raspberry, it almost has too much of that like tartness to it that I don't really want when I'm drinking a smoothie sour, which is kind of ironic to say considering it has sour in the name.
Yeah.
But if this was like a cherry cheesecake, this might be pushing a 5. But for me, it's a 3.75. It's still good. It's also extremely heavy. I'm uncomfortably full right now after these last 2 beers. But it's still pretty good. And I think 3.75 is a pretty solid rating for it.
I'm not going to lie. I'm going to say that I didn't expect a different end result in terms of the Eagles beating the Vikings, but I did not expect a complete blowout. The Vikings are so fucking bad right now.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. Okay.
Yeah.
This has been another episode of Two Average Husbands. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you in the chat on Discord, because we usually don't get that much interaction live on Discord. So thank you for hopping in there, and we will continue to do this in the future. So if you want to come back, watch us live Thursdays, 8 p.m. Central, do that. We'll continue to interact with you. I have to catch up on some of your conversations, and I will psych you. I will provide you direct points on why I think the Harry Potter books are better than the movies. If you just give me a few minutes, I'll come back to that in the chat. Other than that, if you want to interact with us live in the feed that we get the most access to, do that on YouTube or on Twitch. And you can also watch us live on X/Twitter for as long as they're not fucking us over on that. I don't know if that's ever going to change, but for now it's working as far as I'm aware. So you can watch us live there. Jake's on Twitter X, fuck me.
Just say Twitter. That's all I'm ever going to call it.
FF, and we are as a podcast on there as at 2AVG Husbands, which is the same thing that you're going to find on Instagram. Don't bother with Facebook. I don't think it's deleted, but delete it from your memory. And then YouTube, Two Average Husbands. This is the best place to do it. You see us live. You get the notifications if you subscribe and hit the bell. You watch live. You interact with us. Just come here and do it. It's the best way to do it. Other than that, you can listen to this back on any of your podcast streaming platforms. I think that's all I got.
Kyle covered most of it. If you want to see us drink something, let us know what you want to see us drink. If you want to see us talk about anything or listen to us talk about anything, let us know what you want to listen to us talk about. This has been another episode of Two Average Husbands. We will see you all in our next episode. And as always, don't forget to tell somebody